that America's most prolific serial killer operated for over 4 decades, claiming 93 lives, and the justice system let him walk free time after time? What if I told you this monster was caught red-handed multiple times, only to be released to kill again? What if I told you that on a seemingly ordinary September day in Louisiana, police arrested what appeared to be just another frail, wheelchair-bound elderly man? But this wasn't just any man. This was Samuel Little, and he held secrets so dark they would redefine the very meaning of evil in America. The 72-year-old diabetic sitting in that Louisiana shelter looked harmless, sickly, weak, someone you'd expect to find in a hospital, not handcuffs. But appearances deceive. This broken-down man had terrorized half the states in America, leaving a trail of 93 murdered women in his wake. The FBI has confirmed at least 50 of these killings, making Samuel Little the most prolific serial killer in United States history. But here's what will truly disturb you. Little wasn't just deadly. He was untouchable. Arrested over 100 times throughout his life, he spent only 10 years total behind bars before his final capture. The system failed catastrophically, and 93 women paid the ultimate price. Welcome to Dark Trail Files, where we expose the truth behind America's most dangerous predators. Before we dive deeper into this horrifying case, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell, because what we're about to uncover will challenge everything you think you know about evil, and you won't want to miss our next investigation. What made Samuel Little particularly terrifying wasn't just his body count. It was how he manipulated everyone around him. In prison, visitors described him as friendly, almost grandfatherly. He called women baby and signed his letters God bless. But those who spent extended time with him left traumatized, haunted by nightmares they couldn't shake. Little knew exactly what his visitors came to hear, and he delivered his horrific stories with disturbing enthusiasm. He would smile while recounting murders, as if reliving cherished memories. This wasn't remorse. This was a predator who took pleasure in reliving his victims' final moments. Are you ready for this journey? Because Samuel Little's story will challenge everything you think you know about evil. June 7, 1940, America's deadliest predator entered the world as Samuel McDowell. His birth circumstances were already tragic. His mother, Bessie Mae Little, was only 16, impoverished, and working as both a maid and prostitute. His father, 19-year-old Paul McDowell, would play virtually no role in his life. According to some accounts, Samuel was actually born while his mother served time in jail. What happened next would haunt him and his future victims forever. Bessie abandoned her newborn son, literally leaving him roadside to fend for himself. Only his grandmother's intervention saved the child from certain death. This abandonment planted seeds of rage that would grow into an insatiable hunger for control and revenge. Samuel would later target women in similar circumstances to his mother, vulnerable, marginalized, forgotten. His psychological profile suggests this wasn't coincidence, but calculated revenge against the woman who discarded him. Raised by his grandmother in Lorain, Ohio, Samuel appeared to be just another troubled youth. He attended Hawthorne Junior High, but struggled academically and behaviorally, racking up 47 disciplinary reports before dropping out entirely. His first crime came in middle school, theft that landed him in reform school for teenage boys in 1954. But beneath this surface delinquency lurked something far more sinister. Samuel developed sexual fantasies involving strangulation from childhood. He claimed these urges began while watching his kindergarten teacher touch her neck. Another pivotal moment occurred in 3rd grade when a green-eyed girl made eye contact while touching her throat. In Little's twisted perception, she was taunting him, awakening desires he couldn't control. These weren't typical childhood curiosities. They were the early symptoms of a developing sexual sadist. Samuel began collecting true crime magazines, specifically seeking stories about strangulation. He admitted to having compulsive urges when looking at people's necks, though he claimed he could suppress these around family members he loved. Most disturbing of all, Little later admitted he selected victims based on the attractiveness of their necks. This wasn't random violence. It was a carefully cultivated fetish that would drive decades of murder. At 16, Samuel committed his first serious crime: attempted breaking and entering in Omaha, Nebraska. The 4-year juvenile detention sentence should have been a wake-up call, but it had zero rehabilitative effect. Upon release, he immediately escalated to burglary, earning 3 years in prison for breaking into a furniture store. The pattern was established: crime, capture, brief incarceration, release, escalation. Between 1957 and 1975, Samuel was arrested 26 times across 11 states for fraud, shoplifting, armed robbery, assault, solicitation, and sexual crimes. Yet somehow, he remained free enough to kill. During one prison stint, Samuel took up boxing, calling himself a prize fighter. This skill would prove crucial to his killing method. He could knock victims unconscious with a single punch before strangling them, leaving fewer defensive wounds and making deaths appear natural. Perhaps most shocking was Samuel's ability to maintain long-term relationships despite his homicidal urges. In 1971, he met Aurelia Jean Dorsey in jail after his then-girlfriend Lucy betrayed him. Jean, 30 years older than Samuel, had warned him about Lucy's planned testimony through the prison's decrepit communication system. Samuel described Jean as no beauty, but admired her loyalty and criminal expertise. She became his partner in shoplifting operations worth thousands of dollars, teaching him techniques that would fund his cross-country killing sprees. Their accomplice, 19-year-old Danny Beckless, later told police that Little never mentioned women around Jean because she was the jealous type. But when alone with men, Little would fantasize about taking women to secluded places. Jean remained with Samuel until her death from brain hemorrhage in 1988, notably, one of the few women in Little's life to die of natural causes. What makes Samuel Little's story so infuriating is how many opportunities the justice system had to stop him. In 1982, he was charged with murdering 22-year-old Melinda Rose LaPree in Mississippi. Her skeletal remains were found in a cemetery, but somehow the jury declined to charge him with murder. Immediately after, he was transferred to Florida for the murder of 26-year-old Patricia in Mount. Witnesses placed him with the victim on her last night alive, but they were deemed not credible. Little was acquitted in January 1984 and walked free again. The pattern was always the same. Little targeted marginalized women whose credibility could be questioned, whose disappearances wouldn't generate headlines, whose cases wouldn't receive thorough investigation. After his 1984 acquittal, Little moved to San Diego, where his luck would finally begin to change. In October 1984, he attacked 22-year-old sex worker Lori Barrows. She survived to tell a harrowing tale that would eventually help capture America's deadliest killer. Barrows was simply walking to work when Little attacked from behind, dragging her into his Ford Thunderbird. He drove to an abandoned lot used for trash disposal, tied her hands with her own nylons, and began strangling her while sexually assaulting her. She realized his intent wasn't rape. It was murder. My natural reaction was to fight, and it just made him push harder. It was a game to him, Barrows recalled. She survived by playing dead for 30 minutes after he dumped her, terrified he might still be nearby. Exactly 1 month later, San Diego police, conducting surveillance of the same lot, found Little in his Thunderbird with another unconscious victim, Tanya Jackson. She was naked, badly beaten, crammed into the back seat floorboard with her eyes rolled back in her skull. Officers initially thought she was dead until she began gasping for air. Both women were sex workers. Both survived to testify. Both were credible witnesses to attempted murder. And yet, incredibly, Little managed to manipulate the system again. During interrogation, Little showed zero remorse, asking officers indifferently, "Did the bitch make it?" He claimed both women had cheated him during consensual transactions, forcing him to defend himself. His story was absurd. He'd been caught red-handed with an unconscious, brutally beaten woman in his car. Yet somehow it worked. The jury believed the serial killer over the sex workers. They declined to convict on serious charges, accepting Little's plea to simple assault. He served minimal time and was released in February 1987. The prosecution was devastated. "This is probably the worst guy I ever prosecuted," commented Gary Rempel from the San Diego District Attorney's Office. "I was devastated. Little's narrow escape wasn't luck, it was strategy. He deliberately chose victims society wouldn't value, whose testimony wouldn't be believed, whose murders wouldn't be thoroughly investigated." Freed yet again, Little immediately returned to killing. His first Los Angeles victim died shortly after his release. He then moved to Florida, murdering over 10 more women. The system had created a monster who now knew he was effectively untouchable. This investigation revealed a similar case from 1975, nearly identical circumstances where Little was found with a severely beaten woman who'd escaped from his car. Once again, prosecutors deemed the victim not credible due to her heroin addiction. Little pled guilty to reduced charges, paid a $100 fine, served 3 months, and was free by Christmas. The pattern was undeniable. Arrest, manipulation, minimal consequences, immediate return to killing. Evil had to be stopped eventually, and September 5th, 2012 became that day. Little was arrested at a Louisville homeless shelter on outstanding drug charges. What seemed like a routine narcotics case became the breakthrough that would expose America's deadliest predator. By 2012, DNA evidence had become standard in criminal investigations. When Little's DNA was tested, it connected him to 3 Los Angeles murders from 1987 to 1989, Carol Eileen Alford, Guadalupe Duarte Apodaca, and Audrey Nelson Everett. The evidence was overwhelming. DNA matched semen found on 2 victims' clothing, and critically, victim Audrey Nelson had Little's blood under her fingernails, proof she'd fought back and scratched her attacker. This burned victim and former fighter had finally delivered justice from beyond the grave.
Get her name, I think it was Ruth.
Okay.
She was a heavy-set, big old yellow hair, and had buck teeth. It had a gap between the teeth, that's what it was. And she was like honey-colored skin, and she had her hair was not really long. It was.
How tall do you think she was?
She was about 5'7".
How much do you think she weighed?
She weighed about close to 200, about 170. 180.
Pretty big girl.
Yeah.
Right. Now, where did you meet her at?
Okay, down in the crack house. Her and about 6 other girls was sitting on the porch. The dude selling crack in there. I stopped to go in there. I seen the girl. That's why I stopped. We stayed together 2 days or more. I think about 3 days. We was going shoplifting. We went to Sears. We went to Kroger's, and that's where I got busted.
Mm-hmm.
They took me to jail, and she went and stayed in the car. And the manager of Kroger's, I guess he got tired of her laying on his property in that car. He called the station where I was at in North Arkansas to drop the charges. Mm-hmm. So he can come down and get this gal and car out of here. They cut me loose. So we was headed toward that place where Walmart's original store been. I whooped off the road and back into that little woods. It was a cornfield back there. I pulled through it, and on the other side of the cornfield was a trash pile. I parked the car facing out where I could see anybody coming in. So I pulled her out of the car. She's too big for me to carry her. So I just pulled her out of the car and laid on that trash that was lit there.
So was it like a cornstalk pile, or was it?
Yeah, a bunch of corn stalks.
What could you see from there?
I could see the highway, and in the woods is that way. But it's right outside of Little Rock. I was about 10 miles from it.
From North Little Rock, you think 10 miles?
Yeah, it was about 10 miles.
Okay. Hey, tell me about Northern Kentucky, the girl that you met in Columbus. So you meet this girl, I guess you're at a strip bar downtown Columbus.
I went on my car, and this white girl come out behind the building. And I'm in my trunk up. She walked over to me, say, come on, y'all, can you take me to Miami?
Describe this girl to me. She white, black, what she look like?
She was white, blonde hair, dishwater blonde, they go. And short.
Short, like shoulder length?
Yeah,
or
no, ear length, a little over his ear length.
like a bob?
Yeah, like a bob.
Okay, and how tall do you think she was?
She was about 5'7".
How much do you think she weighs?
She weighed about 130.
How old do you think she was?
Oh, she was about 25.
Okay. You mentioned before that you said she kind of had like this hippie aura to her.
Yeah, she did give you a hippie feeling. I think she was some kind of hippie, yeah.
So you go to Cincinnati, you mess around on Vine Street, and then eventually you guys both get in your car and you cross over the bridge into Kentucky. Tell me about going into Kentucky.
We got to Covington, and then we continued through Covington. Mm-hmm. And there was a park that they were having a festival there. And she heard the music and shit off that band in there. And by her being a hippie type, she wanted to get to that. But the police came over and peeped in our car. He really wanted me to move out of there. So we, instead of going in there, I took her the other way.
Right.
Winding around, they got hills out in Kentucky, and the road winds around the hills. I seen a little short road going up the hill, and up top there was vegetation, wasn't no houses there. And so I pulled up and concealed the car in that little vegetation up there on top of the hill.
Mm-hmm. So tell me about this road that goes up the hill. What kind of road is it?
It was like a dirt road.
Okay.
It was like dirt. The grass was growing in the middle between two tracks. When I left her up in that little road up there, on the side of that little road, she was like partially concealed by the vegetation. And I left her there.
Las Vegas.
She was kind of thin, dark skinned, about 40 years old when she was out there hustling. I think she was a drug addict because she wouldn't have been out there.
How tall was she?
She was about 5'5", 5'3".
And how much do you think she weighed?
She weighed about 110, 120.
Okay. What about her did you know?
The boy came, that was her son. And she called him over there. And he came over, hey, he shook my hand and everything. Yeah.
Now how old was he?
He was about 20 or about 19, 20.
Okay, black male or?
Black male.
And where were you at when you met her?
It was on Owens Avenue.
Okay.
Owens, that's down in the black section. Owens and Jackson.
Where do you eventually take her body to?
I was headed toward California. Mm-hmm. So as I drove out of Las Vegas, I seen a motel and a road leading up to the motel. And there's a lot of bushes and brushes beside the road before you got to that motel. That's where I pulled up her body out and rolled it down there. And I heard a secondary road of noise. That meant she was still rolling.
So you basically roll her into a pretty big ditch that's got a bunch of...
Well, it wasn't a ditch, it was a slope.
Okay.
That didn't look like a slope because the vegetation had grown up out of the slope and looked like you would think that the road would just be flat. Mm-hmm. But actually the road was going down, a slope like. And that's why she rolled.
So this is a slope right off the road?
Yeah.
Okay. And tell me about how far do you think you were outside of Las Vegas?
The road I was on was going towards Searchlight. Mm-hmm. So whatever the name of that road is, that's the road I was on.
How far outside of Las Vegas do you think you were? Were you in Las Vegas?
I was still in Las Vegas, yeah.
Okay.
But I was on the very outskirts.
All right.
The very outskirts. There was a couple of motels I remember, gas stations, and it was scattered, because it was getting thin population as you go further out.
Tell me about Mary Ann.
She's what you nowadays they call a transgender.
She's a black male dressed up as a female. Okay. How tall is she?
Marianne's about 5'7", 5'6". She weighed about 135, maybe 140.
And how old do you think she was?
But she was 19.
Okay. And where was she from?
No, Miami, down there in Liberty City.
Okay. And did she, you'd mentioned before she had a boyfriend, or she talked about a boyfriend?
Named Wes.
Wes.
Yeah.
And tell me about where you met her at.
I seen her down at the Guar on 17th Avenue, and she had on a short cream miniskirt. Cream and red. So then this opportunity popped up. Take her to the store.
Right.
Instead of me bringing her back to the apartment, I went down 27th Street. That's going down to Fort Lauderdale, called the Alligator Alley. It runs in the Alligator Alley.
Right.
But the further out you get, the further you get out of Miami.
Right.
And you got vegetation in there.
Now, how far outside of Miami do you think you were?
It wasn't too far out of Miami, right there. I was in my stepdad's car, Pontiac Le Mans.
Now, where did you take her to?
Continue down 27. Got back on 27.
Going outside of Miami. Okay.
Miami.
Going away from Miami.
Going away from Miami. We got down past the let's say limits. So I continued on toward Fort Lauderdale, and I seen a road going off the main road back into vegetation on the left side. So I got her out of the car, pulled her out, and drug her into the growths back there, and pulled her deeper into there's a path. A little path was running somewhere. I don't know where it led it to, but it was running deeper into the undergrowth. It's like Everglades like that. And we ran into some water running. But before we got to the water, the earth was mushy. I turned her loose, and she fell into it face down.
And how far outside of Miami do you think you were?
About a mile, 2 miles.
What year did Mary Ann occur?
72.
Okay, 1972.
She was pretty, a light-skinned, brown, honey-colored skin. And she was about tall. She was tall for a woman, about 5'8", 5'9", and beautiful shape, and she's friendly.
And how much do you think she weighed?
She would have had a beautiful body, a beautiful 150, well put together.
And how old do you think she was?
She was about 30.
Okay. And she's a black female.
Yeah.
And tell me where you met her.
I met her in a nightclub in New Orleans. Her and her sister she had two sisters. Her youngest sister was having a birthday party. Her sister was dancing with this guy on the floor. And when I come in, the girl that I was with offered to dance with me. And while we were dancing, she says, you want to go riding after this party's over? We walked outside, and she looked and seen my car at Lincoln. She said, ooh, that's a beautiful car, too. So she had arm in arm, walking to the car. We got in, stopped at the gas station. We was on the Highway 10 and going toward Slide Hill. I seen the sign saying Little Woods. So I took off the exit, went, and that sure enough was the road leading into the woods. And we went in and parked. So we finally got to where we were going, and it was by a river, a little water thing, and they had a machine out there in that little river.
Dredging?
Dredging.
Okay.
I grabbed her by the legs and pulled her to the water. That's the only one that I ever killed by drowning.
Describe the location where she's left.
Okay, I left her with her head still laying in the water, half her body in the underwater, and her thighs and legs on the bank.
In 2018, Texas Ranger James Holland, known as a serial killer whisperer, began interviewing Little. Holland's approach was masterful. 100 hours of interviews. Little confessed to 93 murders across 19 states between 1970 and 2005. His memory was photographically precise. He recalled each victim's appearance, clothing, final words, and murder location. He drew detailed portraits of over 30 victims, focusing obsessively on their faces and necks. Little's confessions were remarkably credible. As Ranger Holland noted, nothing he's ever said has been proven wrong or false. He provided details only the killer could know. Victims' last meals matching autopsy reports, specific details about crime scenes, unique characteristics like dentures or unusual locations. Little's confessions revealed the full horror of his methodology. He deliberately targeted vulnerable women, drug addicts, sex workers, those with mental health issues, knowing their disappearances wouldn't generate investigation. He was a former boxer who could knock victims unconscious with one punch before strangling them, leaving minimal evidence. His murders weren't about sex or robbery. They were about power and control. Little kept victims conscious during strangulation, claiming he loved holding them while they cried. He used one hand to strangle, the other to satisfy himself sexually. He prolonged their suffering, playing God with their final breaths. It felt like heaven, felt like being in bed with Marilyn Monroe. He told investigators about the killing experience. He referred to his victims as his babies, claiming to love and adore them while describing their murders with disturbing fondness. Most chilling of all, they was broke and homeless and they walked right into my spider web, Little said in 2019. This wasn't impulsive violence. It was calculated predation spanning 4 decades. Little's case exposed devastating flaws in American law enforcement and criminal justice. Police Lieutenant Darren Versiga admitted, "If you were an African-American female involved in prostitution, we just didn't treat those crimes as crimes, to be perfectly honest." Little himself understood this bias, telling a journalist, "I never killed no senators or governors or fancy New York journalists. I killed you, it'd be all over the news. I stayed in the ghetto." He knew marginalized women's murders wouldn't receive thorough investigation. The FBI took unprecedented steps, posting Little's confessions and victim drawings online, hoping to identify unknown victims and provide families closure. Many cases remain open, tagged as overdoses or accidents despite clear evidence of violence, simply because victims were involved in sex work or had drugs in their systems. Samuel Little died December 30th, 2020, at age 80 in a California hospital while serving 3 life sentences. He never showed remorse. Even at sentencing, he interrupted victims' family members to deny his crimes, calling his conviction a legal lynching. His death ended the life of America's most prolific serial killer, but his case continues, exposing systemic failures that allowed him to operate freely for decades. Nearly half his victims resided in the Southeast, and many cases remain unmatched or unidentified. The FBI continues working to connect Little's confessions to unsolved cases across America, seeking justice for the 93 women whose lives he stole and the families still searching for answers. The case of Samuel Little exposes the darkest failures of our justice system and the devastating consequences when society's most vulnerable are forgotten. If this case disturbed you as much as it should, subscribe to Dark Trail Files for more investigations into America's deadliest monsters. Hit that notification bell, because the truth behind these cases needs to be told, and the victims deserve to be remembered. What other cases would you like us to investigate? Let us know in the comments below, and remember, evil hides in plain sight when we stop looking for it.